Pro Football Focus has given their impressions of the Broncos 2022 draft class. Hello everyone, welcome to Denver Broncos Syndicate, part of the Sports Syndicate family of channels. On this channel, we bring you informed and in-depth analysis about our Denver Broncos. I am your host, Gage Madrid. Before we jump in, just a couple of housekeeping matters to attend to. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the notification bell so we can grow this community. If you or someone you know is a Detroit Lions or Pittsburgh Steelers fan, be sure to check out the other Syndicate channels for the same in-depth coverage of those teams. And if you are a Broncos fan looking for even more in-depth coverage and conversation about your team, be sure to check out my other channel, Sparkin' Over Broncos. I would certainly appreciate it. And now, back to your regularly scheduled video. We are just over 2 weeks removed from the 2022 NFL Draft. The Denver Broncos came away with a fairly impressive haul in terms of volume, as they were still able to add 10 players to the squad despite our first 2 draft picks being in Seattle as a result of the Russell Wilson trade. In terms of value for the players that they got, some in Broncos country feel that general manager George Paton passed on quite a bit of talent several times over in this draft. Despite this draft class not being as well received as the Broncos 2021 class that was chock full of contributors including Pat Surtain, Javonte Williams, Quinn Miners, Baron Browning, and Caden Stearns, PFF was an overall fan of this year's draft class, giving the Broncos a grade of a B-. PFF was particularly bullish on the Broncos' Day 2 picks, Nick Bonitto at pick 64 and Greg Dulcich at pick 80. Although I was a fan of the Dulcich pick, considering we picked up an additional 5th round pick in the trade down to acquire him, PFF was certainly higher on the Nick Bonitto pick than I was. Nick Bonitto is a phenomenal value for the Broncos. He was PFF's 38th ranked player on the draft board and one of the most productive pass rushers in the country. He earned a 92.5 PFF pass rushing grade and a 27.3 pass rushing win rate in 2021. He is a pure speed rusher that should immediately come to Denver as a designated pass rusher on obvious passing downs. This is one of the best picks of Day 2. One of the things that PFF lists as Bonitto's greatest strength is also his worst enemy. He is a pure speed rusher who only figures to make an impact on obvious passing downs. He has virtually zero power moves in his arsenal, and he routinely gets washed out in the run game. At this point in his career, Nick Bonitto is a one-trick pony. I feel that there were more talented players on the board at pick 64, and players that I felt brought way more versatility than Nick Bonitto. It's not that I don't like Nick Bonitto the player, I just wasn't a fan of us taking him at pick 64. As far as the Greg Dulcich pick is concerned, PFF said, "The Broncos traded away Noah Fant and needed to add a body to the tight end core, and Dulcich can fit that bill. He has excellent ball skills and shows real wide receiver chops in a tight end's body. He has excellent athleticism and has a really good feel for finding space and getting open. He will contribute to this offense." I think that PFF hit it on the head here. Dulcich brings very nice athleticism at the tight end position, and he figures to form a nice tandem with Albert Okwuegbunam. Neither Dulcich nor Okwuegbunam figure to be consistent contributors in the blocking game, so the Broncos signed veteran tight end Eric Tomlinson, as well as re-signed Eric Saubert, both of which figure to be good contributors in the blocking game. Adding Dulcich to our tight end core makes them a very cohesive unit. Everyone complements each other. Both PFF and myself were big fans of the Greg Dulcich pick. With the exception of our 3 picks in the 5th round, I feel that the Broncos did a nice job adding depth to the team on Day 3. Some of the players that they added have a chance to become instant contributors. The Broncos had back-to-back picks in the 4th round, and they selected Pittsburgh defensive back Damari Mathis and Iowa State defensive lineman Ioma Uwazurike picks 115 and 116 overall. PFF was both surprised and impressed that Damari Mathis was there for the taking for the Broncos at pick 115. Mathis, a top 100 player and the 13th best corner in this class, was a big part of the Pitt Panthers' success last year. He snagged 2 interceptions, recorded 4 pass breakups, and only a 50% completion percentage on the way to a 68.0 defensive grade. Mathis lacks the size and play strength to be a boundary corner at the NFL level, but I do feel that he could come in and make an impact as a nickel behind free agent signee K'Wan Williams. He does have some technical issues to his game that he needs to clean up if he wants to find his way into the starting lineup at some point, but overall, this was an excellent value pick for the Broncos at 115 overall, as Mathis has a chance to become a consistent contributor for us at some point. I feel the same way about our next pick in the draft, Ioma Uwazurike. Uwazurike figures to provide nice depth on our interior defensive line as a 5 technique. He collapses the pocket and he sets things up for defenders around him to make big plays. In the 5th round, the Broncos made a couple of selections that simply left me stumped. Their first of 3 picks in the 5th round was the one that I disliked the least, as they selected Oklahoma safety Delarian Turner-Yell at pick 152. Delarian figures to provide nice depth for us at safety and also figures to make an immediate impact on special teams. The remaining 2 picks in the 5th round were by far my least favorite picks made by George Paton and company in this draft. At pick 162 overall, the Broncos selected wide receiver / return specialist Montrell Washington. Washington is a player who had a consensus grade of late round draft pick to undrafted free agent from scouts, so it really raises some eyebrows as to why the Broncos would select him high in the 5th round. It's not that I'm not a fan of us drafting Montrell Washington, but much like the Nick Bonito pick, I feel that we passed on way more talented players than Washington in my opinion. The hope is that Washington will be able to solve our woes at return specialist. Deontay Spencer had been our primary return specialist since 2019, and he was nothing more than serviceable. Washington will also be an insurance policy for fellow speedy wide receiver KJ Hamler as he recovers from an ACL tear. Hamler is currently well on pace in his recovery, so unless he suffers some sort of massive setback, the odds of Montrell Washington seeing the field on offense are pretty low. While the Montrell Washington pick can at least be somewhat justified, a move that in my opinion was a massive reach for the Broncos was trading up to select Washington center Luke Wattenberg. Denver sent the 179th and 234th pick to Green Bay to move up 8 spots to select Wattenberg at pick 171. Very similarly to Montrell Washington, the consensus grade on Luke Wattenberg from scouts was anywhere from late round pick to undrafted free agent. Wattenberg has multiple red flags that are quite concerning in my opinion. Age being the first one. He spent 6 seasons at Washington, so he comes into this draft class at a whopping 24 years old, one of the older players in this year's draft class. Another concern is a lack of play strength that was already an issue for him at the college level, and it's only going to be even more exploited at the NFL level against bigger, stronger, and faster competition. Once again, I feel that there were players on the board who made way more sense for the Broncos than Luke Wattenberg, and players that we wouldn't have even had to trade up for. With the 179th pick that we sent to the Green Bay Packers, they ended up selecting edge rusher Kingsley Enagbare, who I feel would have made way more sense for the Denver Broncos at this spot than Luke Wattenberg. On my other channel, Sparkin' Over Broncos, I graded the Luke Wattenberg pick a D. Hopefully he makes me eat my words in the future, but until I'm convinced otherwise, this was easily my least favorite pick made by the Broncos in this year's draft. The Broncos closed out their draft with 2 former Wisconsin Badgers in the 6th and 7th round, and both are guys who figure to be good depth pieces for us and have a chance to either make the 53-man roster or the practice squad. In the 6th round at pick 206, the Broncos selected defensive end Matt Henningsen, and in the 7th round at pick 232, the Broncos selected defensive back Faion Hicks. Henningsen has a chance to compete for a rotational spot on our interior defensive line. As far as Hicks is concerned, he joins an already crowded cornerback room, but the hope is that he can make some hay on special teams, a unit that was statistically amongst the bottom in every single category for the Broncos last season. So overall, Broncos country, how do you feel about the value that we got in the 2022 NFL draft? And if you had to give our draft class a letter grade, what would you give it? Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss another upload. And until next time, Broncos country, this is the Denver Broncos Syndicate. Peace out, and let's ride.